Hello, good morning class. So how are you today? So how did you find our first week having the distance learning or the online class? So anyway, I hope everything is doing well. So today, join with me and let us continue with our discussion. So for today, let's have some exercises. So eyes on the slide and listen. So we have here the water cycle. Yes, it is a water cycle illustration. But the question is, what are the process of the water cycle? So it is missing here. So we have here some blanks or space for you to answer the process in water cycle. So I would like you to answer all of this by using these words. So try to put these words on their exact places for the water cycle to function in accordance to their direction and the places where they are supposed to be. Okay, so maybe 5 seconds you can do this. Okay, now this is the answer. So for those who got it right, then a clap for you. And very well, because you still remember the water cycle process. Okay, so very good for those who got correct answer. Now, I want you to look at these pictures carefully and try to observe and analyze why is this happening in the world. And now, I would like also to ask some questions. What do you know about El Nino phenomenon? Have you ever heard about El Nino? So I hope you are all familiar with the El Nino or the even so-called the La Nina. We have the El Nino and we also have the La Nina. But what I am asking for now is the El Nino. And what is the impact whenever we are in the El Nino stage? And what are the sphere or what are the subsystems being affected if we are experiencing the El Nino phenomenon? Okay, now, for those who already forget what is the El Nino, then try to listen. So, the El Nino is the warm phase of a larger phenomenon called the El Nino Southern Oscillation, or ENSO in short. So the cycle begins when warm water in the western tropical Pacific Ocean shifts eastward along the equator toward the coast of South America. Normally, this warm water pools near Indonesia and in the Philippines. So during an El Nino, the Pacific warmest surface waters sit offshore of northwestern South America. So forecasters declare an official El Nino when they see both ocean temperatures and rainfall from storms veer to the east. Experts also look the prevailing trade winds to weaken and even reverse direction during the El Nino climate phenomenon. So these changes set up a feedback loop between the atmosphere and the ocean that boosts El Nino conditions. So anyway, if we experience El Nino, then it is very evident also because we can all experience the hotness and the warmness of the weather. Okay. Ang init-init ng panahon. Now, try to look at this. I would like you to analyze how the lines are connected from one to another. So, as you can see, there are so many lines with the arrows pointing to the other, from the other to the other objects. So, what is the connection of that arrows and why they are connected in that? So, what are the purpose of that lines and arrows connection and how they are working with each other or one to another? Okay, so for this morning, our learning outcomes would be define the concept of a system, recognize the uniqueness of Earth being the only planet in the solar system with properties necessary to life. Explain the Earth consists of 4 subsystems across whose boundaries matter and energy flow, and suggest ways to protect and preserve natural processes within the Earth subsystem. Okay. Now, my question is, what are the Earth 4 subsystems? And how do they interact with one another? So, the Earth core subsystem is, we have the lithosphere, or what they call also the geosphere. We have the atmosphere, we have the biosphere, and the hydrosphere. So if you are trying to look at the figure, then they have also lines and arrows connected from one to the other. So what is their relationship? Why they are interconnected? Okay. So I would like you to think about a forest, a garden, or a farm. So how do you think the soil in these areas was created? Soil is something we take for granted, and we don't often think of how it was formed. So the formation of soil is actually quite complex and requires the involvement of all 4 major geological subsystems of Earth. So which are the atmosphere, hydrosphere, biosphere, and the geosphere? Okay, so we have another picture. So picture of a human body. So the human body is the structure of a human being. So it is composed of many different types of cells that together create tissues and subsequently organ systems. So they ensure homeostasis and the viability of human body. So that is why we exist in this world. Okay, now to define a system, it is a set of interconnected components that are interacting. Remember, interacting. They are not just there as connected, but they are there to interact to form a unified whole. So, in other words, a system is interconnected in interacting. So they always have relationship with one another. So, a system is described by its spatial and temporal boundaries, surrounded and influenced by its environment, described by its structure and purpose, and expressed in its functioning. Meaning to say, every component, they have their own functions. They have their own structure and they have their own purpose. So is it clear? Okay. Now, Earth system. So Earth system is a closed system. Remember, the Earth is a closed system. All ingredients, we have water, gases, and chemical nutrients, exist on Earth in limited amount for life on Earth to continue to function. These ingredients have to be recycled over and over again. So try to put this in mind that all ingredients, as you can see in the Earth, is to be recycled over and over again. So energy source is the sun, and return some of this energy to the space. Now, Earth science look at the entire planet as a system of interacting parts called subsystem. So each subsystem can be studied separately, but ultimately they are dependent. Okay, remember, they are dependent on and connected with the other system. So put this in mind. They are dependent on and connected with other systems. Now, changes within one subsystem eventually causes changes in others. So, each four subsystem is an open system. It is only the Earth is a closed system. But with regards to the four subsystems, it is open system. Why? Because they are dependent and connected with the other system. So, this subsystem is an open system, and matter and energy can freely transfer between them. So if you try to look at the relationship, how they are really interconnected and dependent with one another. So any disturbance in one system really affects the other system. Okay, so I hope it is really clear and it is well explained that how important each system to each other. Okay. Now, what are those four subsystems or the four sphere of the Earth? Okay. One, we have the atmosphere. So try to look at the picture if you are not familiar with the word atmosphere. Okay. But I know you already knew what is atmosphere. Okay. Now, atmosphere, this is the Earth, is surrounded by a thin gaseous layer or blanket of air called the atmosphere. So just simply look up, then that is the atmosphere. Okay, the atmosphere consists of four layers: the troposphere, mesosphere, stratosphere, and the thermosphere. So the clouds is very beautiful, and that is our atmosphere. Okay, but if the weather is bad, then you can see our clouds is also dark in color. Okay, now the atmosphere reaches over 350 miles up from the surface of the Earth. The atmosphere is primarily composed of nitrogen, about 78%, and 21% oxygen. That is what we take in the moment we inhale. Okay? So that is the source of our life also. Now, we have the biosphere. Okay, so from the word bio alone, then it's simply the life zone. Okay, so the biosphere is the life zone of the Earth, and it includes all living organisms, including us, including humans, and all organic matter that has not yet decomposed. Yung hindi pa namamatay, then they are in biosphere. Now, energy and nutrients like carbon are transferred from one level of food chain to the next. That is because of survival. For us to live, no, for us to survive, then we need energy and nutrients like carbon. Okay. Next, so we'll move on to the hydrosphere. Okay, when we talk about hydro, then it involves water. So, hydrosphere contains all water found on our planet. Surface water includes the ocean as well as water from the lakes, rivers, and creeks. Then we have the groundwater, includes water trapped in the soil and groundwater. Atmosphere, water vapor, frozen water, glaciers, ice caps. So those are water in the atmosphere. Okay, when you inhale, then already that is already what we call the water vapor, and that is part of the hydrosphere. So again, as what I have told you earlier ago in the atmosphere, that 21% is oxygen, and that we inhale the oxygen in the atmosphere. So only about 3% of water on earth is fresh. Water, about 70% of fresh water is frozen in the form of glacial ice. Now, we have the last, the geosphere or the lithosphere. So it is a solid part of the earth from the core to the surface. It includes volcanoes, rocks, minerals, coal, oil, and others. So mineral resources are mined from the geosphere. Okay. Okay, class. We have here some ways on how to maintain ecological balance. Okay, one, you have to manage natural resources carefully. So the Earth's organism interacts with their environment. And mind you, we are organism. We are one factor, or not just one factor, but maybe for now we are a big contributory factor for destroying our Mother Earth. Okay, so plants use energy from the sun, and they become food for the other creatures. So the cycle continues as plant and animal life forms die and get consumed by microorganisms. So, but this cycle of life is in jeopardy from humanity. Humanity's overuse of natural resources and damage the ecosystem from pollution. See? Okay. So, protect the water. Why? Contamination from sewage and pollution from manufacturing and agricultural runoff threatens the balance of marine ecosystem. So, naaapektuhan talaga ang ating mga yamang dagat. So, solar and agricultural runoff can cause a cascade of damaging effects on the ecosystem. So, taking steps to reduce or eliminate pollution from non-point sources such as streets and farms will help to maintain ecological balance. Sewage and runoff agricultural fertilizer can cause the rapid growth of algae in lakes and streams. That is why agriculturists usually promote the organic use of fertilizer because it can lessen or it cannot harm our water. Okay, so I hope it is clear. Now, we have the forest and the wood. Reducing the use of forests can go a long way in mitigating problems associated with climate change and ecosystem destruction. As we all know, the trees are very much important in helping climate change, right? And not just climate change, but in our ecosystem. So how the forest or how the plants and trees help us in converting carbon dioxide into oxygen and retain carbon in their wood, thus reducing the amount of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. So this is how important trees in our surroundings. Okay. Now, we have animals and biological system. So animals are used by humans for food, for laboratory tests, for pure and leather, and even for entertainment. Yes, it is. So issues like overfishing, however, endanger ecosystem and deplete fish and animal resources to the point where humans could become food insecure. So fisher, fishermen are those big companies who are into this kind of venture, then maybe they have to avoid illegal fishing in a way of using chemicals, using dynamites, and also catching those small fishes. So they must also avoid this or eliminate this kind of uh, process or ways in catching fishes. Now, we have the fossil fuels. So demand for fossil fuels like oil, natural gas, and coal is constantly on the rise. So which puts pressure on natural resources. So one big step is for governments and corporations to increase their use and support for renewable sources. So such as solar collectors and hydropower. So make use of the recyclable sources of hydropower and solar collectors. So that can help alleviate the discomforts of our environment. Okay, class, before we'll end our discussion for today, so I would like you to put this in mind. The main importance of studying the interaction between the four subsystems is to really understand how different aspects in nature correlate to each other. Studying the subsystems also show the effect of pollution in nature. If we take an example of an oil spill, it will affect the aquatic life by reducing the amount of oxygen that gets into the water. Interaction between the different subsystems also causes an event on one subsystem to affect the other subsystem. So if the air is polluted, it will even affect the hydrosphere. That is why there are some results being the acidic rain that will affect the aquatic life and very many other subsystems. So the importance of studying different subsystems is that you will be in a position to plan for your future. So you have to decide in which area or in which aspect in your life wherein you can help save our Mother Earth. Now, you have hurricanes and tornadoes are avoided by studying different interaction in the subsystems. Volcanoes are also detected early enough when one studying the interactions between subsystems of the Earth. So, in this in this in this situation, you as a student and as a citizen then try to get involved on how we are going to promote a clean and green environment. Okay, class. So how can you help protect, conserve our natural resources? So as you can see in this picture, it is really in a need of help. So, class, you can simply be an advocate to the call of care for our Mother Earth. So by caring our environment through a program, the Clean and Green. So simply, you can promote waste management by reducing, reusing, and recycling materials. So those are already of a big help. So save Earth, save lives. So again, thank you for being with me, and I hope our discussion was a bit educational and helpful to each and everyone why a system of interaction is very much important. So see you next week and have a blessed day ahead of us.